We recently acquired an Aventura here at Viking Aircraft Engines. Obviously it didn't look like this when it got here. So we're going to kind of take you through what we're doing to bring it up to snuff and the changes that we'll be making and kind of the direction that we're headed with it. So we kind of want to take you along on the journey and show you what we're doing and where we're going from here and what we've already done. All right, so we're going to bring you guys up to speed on what we've done so far.
All right, so we bought this Aventura. So far we've just kind of taken it apart, took the turtle deck off the front, and replaced this roof tube up on top here. We're working on the landing gear and the tail feathers. So we're going to get involved with the cabin area, the instrument panel, cleaning out the back of this, fixing some damage up front here. Replacing a lot of things on the panel and the turtle deck. So let's get involved with some of the bits and pieces and in more detail.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about what's already been done inside here.
All right. First step was to kind of just look everything over, and first thing we saw was there was a lot of old instrumentation, so that was all taken out. There's a battery box up here that was not really attached properly, so we tore that out. This front turtle deck, as you can see, there's been some damage to this before, and somebody's been in here repairing it. It's been repaired with the wrong cloth and resin, so this whole area is going to be ground down and a new layer of cloth put in, so that's going to be one of the major structural parts that has to be fixed. We even had a little bit of damage to the main attach point here for the aluminum structure. As you can see on the other side, there's a wooden block that's fiberglassed in here. All of this will have an extra layer of glass. We've been looking at the design, and the whole airplane's black and yellow on the wings, so we're not going to do carbon fiber, but we're going to do a hybrid fiberglass cloth that has a pattern to it, a black and a yellow pattern. And we think that's going to look nice once we get this done from the bow all the way to behind the seats. As you can see, this framework has been lifted up in order to be able to get down here. It took a day actually just to get the carpeting out of here. This had black carpeting that was glued with rubber cement, and it was really, really hard to get it out. The only way we found was to do paint remover and carefully work one section at a time, soaking it and scraping it before it would attack the fiberglass. But we got it out. All right, so we did look at, we're going to add that yellow and black fabric. As you can see, we've started to remove some of the structure, the aluminum structure that ties into the fiberglass. Basically, this airplane is constructed by having a fiberglass tub, and then the aluminum carries some of the major loads like the engine and the landing gear and your seats and so forth. Now, to get this completely out of here, we kind of thought, well, maybe we won't take it all the way out because there's some bolts here down in these corners that you can't get out because basically, you know, it's up against the fiberglass. So we've decided, because there's only really two of them and we would like to remove it so we can get in here and do a good job, we're going to cut the heads of the bolts, and that'll be the next step. We're going to remove this and then clean it all separately. We're going to go in here and clean it, and we're going to clean the front and grind it and put the fiberglass down. Now, other things that's going to be done, as you can see, this whole system right here holds the landing gear. Okay, so we need a structurally sound landing gear. There are different options there. We're learning about this plane as we work on it. One is an electric actuator. Another one would be a Johnson bar, basically an up and down manually. We'll have to take a look at it because there are some other things in here too that I'm not 100% happy about, and that's the support of the landing gear retraction mechanism. I think this is an older model, and we're going to take a look at that and fine tune it. Now back here, by the way, these are great. We got a couple of these because if you work on a Sea Ray or an airplane like this, this is the thing to have. Right up here, when you work on these Aventuras or Sea Rays or any of these ultralight type of planes, they have something they call a root tube, which is basically a 2x2 square aluminum tube. Some of them use an 1/8" wall thickness. Some of the really big engines that go up here, they use a 1/4" wall thickness. This airplane is going to be set up with a 90, maybe 100 horsepower engine by Viking. So we're going with the 1/8" wall thickness. Everything that we do, we're going to try to save weight. So it's an 1/8" wall thickness throughout. We might put a doubler in the aft section, which is also something that some of the companies do in the location where the engine's going to be mounted. Other than that, the airplane's in pretty good shape from here back. The landing gear's in good shape. Everything needs to be cleaned up. Typical things like these boots and stuff would have to be fixed up. I've talked to Alex at the company about the wheels. Like anything with airplanes, there's pros and cons. We'll see where we go. The bigger the wheels, the nicer it lands maybe, but also lowering those big wheels down into the water takes a lot of force, which makes you have a bigger mechanism in the plane, a bigger motor, actuator that's heavier. So we're going to do some thinking about it, because I think the idea of this airplane is going to be that it's going to be lightweight and it's going to be a sports plane, which means it's going to be simple. Now we'll take a look at all the components that we've already removed from the aircraft, and they're on the table over here. There's actually more than this, but obviously we show most of it and not every detail about what we're doing. But like I said over there, I have a thought about making it lighter in weight. We pick up certain pieces of the plane, you know, like this here. And it's a pretty heavy piece for what it is. It's just a cover on the front. It's actually 6 pounds. So we'll see what we can do about that. Saving weight is a quest, of course, where you cannot get 50 pounds out of an airplane from one piece, but you can get 2 pounds from a lot of pieces. And of course you have to make the decision, is it really worth all the labor and the cost that goes into that? But in some instances, we're going to do exactly that by making it a very open type of airplane. Things like fairings like this, you know, we're going to leave out. We're just going to make the mechanisms that are underneath it powder coated or nice, and leave out stuff like that. Here's, for instance, a bulkhead that was up front with a lot of pieces on it, and you know, just something like that. There's 10 pounds in nothing right there. Of course, some of this is because of the older style avionics. We're not putting on any of that in. That's another 5 pounds right here. You know, several pounds of switches. So we're going to put in like a little Garmin all-in-one instrument, a very uncluttered instrument panel, because we're going to keep in mind what this airplane's for. It's for jumping in, starting it, going out, looking out the window, having one instrument just because you should have airspeed and things like that. But and moving around this table, here's another thing. We're going to do a aluminum spun tank, because they're very, very lightweight and they'll look nice in the plane. This one is 16 pounds, just even without fuel in it. So we'll basically see if somebody else wants that one. We'll do our spun aluminum tank for another reason. Viking is specializing in in-tank fuel systems for our engines. The spun aluminum tank will be lightweight. It'll look nice. We can weld in our flanges on the bottom of them for the pumps. So the entire fuel system for the airplane would just be part of the tank. Nice seats came with the airplane. A lot of it was kind of grungy and stuff. We threw those through the washing machine and the dryer, and it turned out beautiful, so we're happy about that. Here's some more weight-saving things we have to just keep thinking about, like for instance the turtle deck in the front. You know, that's going to be glued back on. Now, I'm thinking about maybe just sanding the seam and fiberglass it, because as soon as you put something like this back on, there's actually 5 pounds of moldings on the airplane. We'll have to see if we want to glue that back on or not. So continuing the quest for lightness, there's some nice trays. You know, somebody took a lot of effort to making these trays for the luggage, and maybe we'll put them in, you know. But as of right now, I'm looking for everything that has some weight, like 5 pounds here, 5 pounds there. And these trays go in the back to hold your luggage. But each tray is like 4.5 pounds. So that's, by the time you get the 2 trays in there and some hardware to hold it in place, that's 10 pounds. So then you wonder, well, what about a net or something like that? So we keep thinking about what can we remove without removing utility from the airplane, and maybe get 100 pounds out of the airplane. Here's a wire loom that we pulled out. Of course, it has huge battery cables and lots of it running all the way from the engine to the front. There's another 8 pounds worth of cables. So of course we have to put a little bit of wiring back in, but preliminary thoughts are putting the battery right next to the engine, put a number 10 wire up to the panel, because you only have to power the panel or the ephes with a little bit of power. The rest of the power stays by the engine. The alternator charges the battery starts the engine. So we're gonna redo that system. I'm hoping we can come up with a manual retraction system. This is actually one of the small motors to do the gear. They just get bigger from there depending on the tire size. So we got 9 to 10 pounds there. Here's something that we're thinking about, you know, in conjunction, very small detail, but with that root tube we talked about with the 1/8" wall. Some of these are 2" and some of them are 1 3/4 inch. So some will go on the inside of that square tubing, and that's to be able to take the load with a bolt running through wherever we bolt the engine and to the airframe and all that kind of stuff. So this way we can tie that root tube into the airplane and be able to torque our bolts without compressing or crushing the tubing. So that's what, they're just black anodized standoffs. We bought 2 different kinds of mildew remover. One is supposed to take the mildew away from inside of the wings and everything. We bought a pump sprayer. And so one is supposed to be able to remove the mildew because you see a little bit inside the wing fabric. And I think also in the back of the fuselage, we'll try some of these combinations to clean up the airplane. Here's a flak mechanism. It's pretty much as light as it's gonna get, you know, it just needs to be cleaned up and tested. This stuff I don't want to put in an airplane. This is some kind of circuit boards and huge relay to move the landing gear up and down. Whatever we're gonna come up with, a manual, of course you don't need any of that. If we do electric, it's gonna be an actuator that has all of this start and stop mechanisms built into the actuator. More stuff. Some of it's gonna have to go back on the plane and some don't. Yeah, so basically it's gonna be a fun project. I think it's always easy to tear stuff out, so that's what we've been doing so far. The next step is maybe we'll do a little video after we get the front section of the hull ground down and re-fiberglassed with a nice black and yellow.
All right, so we're taking a look at the wings here. If you didn't notice, some of the mat we're going to be laying out on the bottom of the Aventura obviously matches the wings and the color scheme we're going for. So we're going to take a look at those.
Yeah, basically a lot of this is new to us as far as the construction, other than when I was a teenager I flew hang gliders, so some is familiar, like as far as, you know, the way this wing is constructed. Wings have been in a shade hanger, so they've been sitting outside, kind of inside, outside, whatever. But they do have some spots on them inside, a little mildew. And if you look in from the end here, we can also see that, you know, there's some mildew on all this. And here's where the spray that we bought, we're going to give that a try. We're going to make a wand basically and a pump sprayer, and we're going to spray everything inside and let it soak for a little bit and then rinse it out and see if we can bring the wings back to new shape. Of course, the wrinkles you're seeing, that's just part of when you install the airplane. These gets tightened up because they clip into the other side. One little detail, I don't know, like I have to talk to Alex about, but not crazy about these skinny little tubes for the ailerons. They have a support halfway in a little nylon block, which kind of also makes it bind, increases the friction of the system. So my gut feeling is that these tubes will just be a thinner wall but much bigger diameter in order so they won't have to have that middle support, making the airplane easier to maneuver in the sky. But we'll see about that.
A little bit into the engine that's actually going to go on this airframe. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, it's a 90 horsepower engine the way it's configured here. We'll look at one over there too that has a 2-gear gearbox, which will actually be what's going to go on here. It's basically the 3-cylinder Mitsubishi that we make for all kinds of airplanes. A lot of them are going into the Zenith 701, but But that's going to be the engine that goes up on the Aventura, and it doesn't weigh any more than the 912 Rotax, so we'll be able to use that thinner root tube that we talked about. Now, we also have an option of, we have a brother to that one sitting over here, and that's something that's going to go on test stand first, because we're going to do a lot of running with this small turbocharger. This does have the 2-gear gearbox, so that will be the right configuration for that airplane. And we'll see about, you know, putting 1 or 2 pounds of boost in it, which is very, very mild boost, and that would just be to bring it up to 100 horsepower. But we'll take a look. We'll fly it with the 90 horsepower first, and then we have that option.
Just kind of a final overlook on where we're ending things now, so we can pick up where we left off next time we make a little video for you guys. Obviously it's pretty much gutted at this moment, and we're going to continue doing some cleaning and going over everything. Obviously we have to clean out the wings as well. There's a lot of steps that still need to be taken before we get this thing ready to fly. So just a once over on all that, and then kind of like he said, you know, we removed a lot of these parts out of the plane, kind of seeing what we're going to put back in, what we're going to replace, and how we're going to go from there. And that's a wrap for today.